Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're here today at a special called meeting of the Commissioners Court of Hood County, Texas. Today is February the 26th, 2024. It's 1 p.m. and we're in the Emergency Operations Center, or the EOC, located at 401 Deputy Larry Miller Drive in Granbury, Texas. And today, I'd like to call on Mr. Ricky Reeves here to do us the invocation here today. Mr. Reeves?
Dear Heavenly Father, please go with our commissioner today, give them the strength and wisdom to make decisions for the county and the public in the best interest of the county and the public. Go with each and every one here as they travel home. Let them have a safe trip home, and our visitors that come from a different long way away have a safe trip home. Please protect this county and guide all the leadership to let them do what's best for the citizens of this county. We ask this name in your name, dear Heavenly Father. Amen.
Y'all join me in the pledge to the United States.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Texas flag,
On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, the first item of business to be discussed and considered for approval is number one, discuss and take appropriate action to clarify TNP's involvement in the North Central Texas Council of Governments thoroughfare planning and sub-area study as it relates to Hood County's master thoroughfare plan update agreement with TNP. You want to start, Ms. Samuelson, since you put the item on the agenda?
yes, so since we, I guess it was January, did we just look at the agenda, it was January 9th, court, yes, that we approved, update to the master thoroughfare plan with TNP. Development district map. I'd also taken an opportunity to reach out to the North Central Texas COG, because during some of the phone conversations with Clint and Ryan, there was mention that North Central Texas COG had us on their plan, had Hood County on their plan as Category 1. I didn't know what that meant. I thought Category 1 meant we were first. So I called them up and we had a joint meeting with Clint and Ryan and had a pretty long discussion on what North Central Texas COG could provide and what the difference was between Category 1 and Category 2. And so then that brought us to the point of moving forward with what we had already approved with TNP and what involvement we wanted to have with North Central Texas COG. Ryan can probably explain this way better than me, so in a second here I'm going to turn it over to him. But it really involves how much input we want from North Central Texas COG, and it's kind of a balancing. How much work will TNP do versus how much work will North Central Texas COG do? And so for you to explain better what the difference between a Category 1 and a Category 2 is, I think it'd be much better if you explained it.
Okay, where would you like for me to, should I come up or should I just turn around? What's best to do?
Well, so everybody can hear, why don't you just come up here and take my place? And we can just everybody can hear.
Well, it certainly
Take
is
it,
an
Mike.
honor to take your chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
A question, what does COG stand for?
North Central Texas Council of Government. Yeah, so COG has this thoroughfare planning study and sub-area study program where they basically identify some local governments within their region that they then will do a transportation study to help these entities update their thoroughfare plans. And it's a really great program. It does require the local government, in this case Hood County, to apply to be a part of this program, because what it results in is COG doing a lot of work on behalf of the county for free. So it's a real value to the county, to your constituents. And what we found was that at some point back in 2017, somebody on behalf of the county had applied to be a part of this program with COG. So the wheels have really been greased, because as soon as we contacted COG, that we were already in their program, in their system, for them to get going. And so really all that is needed is for us to start the process, and they're ready to hit the ground running to facilitate this. But COG has, they classify these studies in two categories, as Nanette said. They've got category 1 and they've got category 2. Category 1, and you can navigate to their website, you can find a similar study that they did for Wise County. Category 1 would mean that COG runs the show. They do pretty much everything from start to finish. They facilitate all the meetings, they collaborate with the county and the local governments within the county, all the municipalities, and they do all the public involvement, and they do all the analysis, all the modeling, to result in an updated master thoroughfare plan. They typically do that in instances where the county or the city that they're working with does not have a consultant on board. The benefit to that is that COG does everything, and you don't have to pay COG to perform that work. And so there is some benefit to allowing COG to move forward with category 1. Category 2 would be an instance, potentially like we have here, where the county does have a consultant on board that can kind of work as an intermediary between the county and COG. We can help TMP. I'm with TMP. I should have said that from the beginning. My name is Ryan Jones. But TMP would work as kind of an intermediary between the county and COG to facilitate meetings, to facilitate public involvement, maybe even summarize all of our recommendations and analysis that COG is going to perform into a document, a report. I'm not sure yet. I think part of this is still to be determined. We need to coordinate with COG to figure out what all would be within their scope of work as part of a category 2. But the general gist of it is that the county would have a consultant on board, in this case being TMP, that would help expedite and facilitate, coordinate, and schedule the collaboration between the county and COG. What COG communicated to us, we did have a preliminary meeting just to kind of get the ball rolling, reach out to COG, see what was, if they were even, if this was still even in their program, just to see what kind of steps were needed to get this going. Clint was in on the meeting, Nanette was in on the meeting. They communicated that a category 2 usually can be completed much sooner than a category 1, because you're pulling in additional manpower, additional resources. COG has a team assigned to do this work, but they're a finite group of people, and they've got big responsibilities, big area they're serving, and so it's going to take a little bit more time if we have COG do the category 1 study, because they're going to have to work Hood County's effort into the effort they have where they're serving other entities. So that's kind of my understanding of the difference between category 1 and category 2. I think the result of either is going to be the same. It's going to result in recommendations for improvements and updates to the county's master thoroughfare plan, which is our ultimate goal. I think category 1 will take a little bit longer, but it'll save you some money. Category 2 will get done sooner. It will involve TMP as a representative of the county, as your engineer. And hopefully we can get this thing wrapped up a little quicker. But that's kind of what, that's about what I know. I think we will need some, you know, if we choose, whichever route we choose, there will be some additional meetings needed with COG to kind of figure out exactly what information COG needs and what the next steps are going to be.
Question. What's the cost? What are you charging the county for this?
So we do have a standing agreement to provide engineering services on an hourly basis to the county, and that's already been executed. The exact total cost of this effort is a bit of an unknown because the process is, well, we don't know how many meetings there are going to be yet, and we don't know how much public involvement is going to be required yet. Some of that will be to be determined as we kind of move through the process. So one idea, and I think, you know, we've done this with other clients, one idea would be for the county to approve, you know, a certain budget, kind of chunks of budget as we move along the process, so that you're not committing to an unknown, unquantifiable amount of effort for TMP to perform. So, you know, one idea would be, let's approve, you know, $25,000 authorization for TMP to get started in this process, and then we'll kind of figure out where we go from there. And if we start bumping up on that budget, then we could, you know, approve another $20,000 to $25,000 amount, and we would only charge that as it was used. So,
What's the charge per hour?
well, that's gonna vary depending on employee type. So I can't give you a
What's the
specific.
range? From what to what?
Say 160 to 270 bucks an hour, or something like that. I don't know the exact
But
off
roughly.
the top, roughly, yeah. And you're looking at probably, so I've got myself, I'm the team lead of our team in Fort Worth. Will is my project engineer. So you're looking at probably two of us being involved in this process. Obviously, my billing rate's gonna be a little higher than Will's. That's just the way, you know, we're structured.
So yours would be higher than this?
No, mine would be within that range, but mine's gonna be on the upper side of that range, yes, sir.
Do y'all have some estimate of how many hours it'll take? Y'all done this before, right, with other municipalities?
We have not worked with COG on an update like this. I have not worked on an update with COG. I think we do have people at our firm that have. Joe over here has done it before. But what COG communicated to us, honestly, is that this update will be tailored to Hood County. So what they did for Wise County may not look exactly like what we're gonna do for Hood County. So a lot of that's gonna be up to county representatives, the commissioners, the judge. You probably will want some representation from the cities within your county. What will happen is there will be the creation of a steering committee. I think COG referred to it as a transportation policy committee, and that committee will be made up of county representation, the commissioners, the judge, as well as city representation, whether that's city staff or their EDC, or you probably would want at least one representative from each municipality within the county on this committee. So you'll have that be as kind of the formal decision-making committee, and then underneath that you'll have the technical committee, which, if you do category 1, would be made up of COG and then maybe TxDOT. If you did category 2, it might be COG, TxDOT, and TMP as part of that technical committee, and they will be advising and providing options and alternatives for then the Transportation Policy Committee to make decisions upon.
So is there some way you could give a rough estimate of how many hours would be involved, or dollar that the county would be charged, roughly?
At this point, I don't.
Joe, do you have any idea? Since you said you worked on one like this before.
So I will say this, so if you take Wise County as an example, they had seven total stakeholder meetings. And that was made up of, you know, you have your kickoff meeting, then you have workshops with your committee, and then finally you'll have a public meeting to involve the public and get public involvement. They had 7 meetings. You know, I don't know exactly how much prep time is gonna be required for each meeting, but you're probably looking at, you know, $7,000 to $10,000 a meeting for TMP's involvement. That's a real, I mean, I'm shooting from the hip on that, but it's an estimate. Yes, sir.
So, I guess to start off with, kind of explain what we're trying to do here. I know we talked about thoroughfare planning, but TxDOT should have done that before the expansion of 377 was being projected, so there should be some of that already done. So what is it we're exactly looking for to do with this project?
So, in general, local governments will have a master thoroughfare plan. You know, the city of Granbury has a master thoroughfare plan. I don't know if Crescent does, but they probably do. Hood County has a master thoroughfare plan. It's not been updated since the year 2000, so it's about 24 years out of date. But what the plan does is it provides an orderly, organized documentation that both is available to the public and available to developers, available to, you know, TxDOT, state agencies, that provides a plan for how the county is going to facilitate the growth in terms of traffic and population with their infrastructure, specifically their roadway network. And so it will, as part of this update, we'll be looking at traffic, specifically COG. We'll be looking at traffic projections over the next 20 plus years, and what kind of impact that has on y'all's existing network, and what kind of improvements are needed to facilitate the increased traffic loads. And so they'll also be wanting input from the county. They'll be wanting to know, do y'all have locations where you're currently experiencing congestion and problems? Do you have locations that you're experiencing a high number of accidents? Do you have locations where you've got flooding issues that we need to address? All of those things are considered in this, but it basically creates a roadmap, so to speak, of what improvements are needed and when they're needed over the next, you know, 20 plus years. And this is it's a living document. You know, as you have developments occur, if things, you know, change in your land use, you'll want to update your master thoroughfare plan to account for those things, so you have a plan that's current with your needs, and it's going to result in a near-term plan as well as a long-term plan, and it's going to identify, you know, locations in your road network that need to be a priority in the next 5 years, and those projects you're going to need to start thinking about how are we going to fund, because what this won't do is it won't assign funds to these projects. You know, you really need a CIP, a capital improvement program for that. But what it will do is tell us, you know, these are the improvements that we need, these are the locations we need to focus on, both the near term and the long term, so that those conversations and those thoughts can be had. Joe, did you have something?
Yeah, so your investment in this plan will turn into Council of Governments, which is, by the way, like a federally funded agency. All money for transportation improvements in your county comes through the Council of Governments, through COG. All right, so when you get the Council of Governments involved and you get this thoroughfare plan put together, then they have a demonstrated need for federal funding assistance for the improvement of your road. So that's, I guess, to put it simply, you're making a small investment to get millions, tens, maybe hundreds of millions in construction funding for like widening of Raleigh-Graph dams, like Temple Hall Highway, for instance. That's probably an FM that is a sleeper that we're really not sure, you know, what needs to be done, but we know something's going to have to be done because there's a lot of people going north towards Weatherford.
Clint, you had
Does
a
that make
question?
sense?
I was wondering if you could explain to the room, like, on this thoroughfare plan, when it's gonna project where we need new thoroughfares, which for highways, how TxDOT will facilitate and use this thoroughfare plan to guide them?
Yeah, so having the thoroughfare plan, so you currently have a thoroughfare plan, so you currently have a tool to coordinate with TxDOT. It hasn't been updated in almost 25 years, and so it's out of date. But what it'll do is it'll provide a basis, it'll really provide the county some leverage when they go to TxDOT in terms of saying, hey, we need this bridge widened to, I don't know, 40 feet. And TxDOT's gonna ask, well, why do you need it 40 feet? Why can't it be 20 feet? And we can just go, well, we have an approved master thoroughfare plan, that's a plan for the growth of our county, that says we need it to be 40 feet, and that's been backed up by data and analysis and modeling, and it gives you a leg to stand on when you go to TxDOT needing, whether it's a roadway improvement or a bridge improvement. And then it's also very valuable when you're working with, developers within y'all's area, because, you will want to preserve these right-of-way corridors for the future growth of your network. And so you may have a situation where your current right-of-way is 50 feet, but we see that in 15 years, you need it to be 100 feet. Well, let's say a developer comes and develops along that roadway, you want them to dedicate, the portion of right-of-way that's required to get that 100 feet, 10 years from now. You don't wanna have to go be buying that right-of-way or, and impacting the public with their backyards or whatever development it is. 10 years down the road, you wanna have a plan for that and have the developers dedicate that right-of-way. And that's something that you can do if you have your thoroughfare plan updated. So it's a very important document. It's meant to be kind of a living document. You update it every so often, and it's long overdue. I think 25 years is long overdue for an update here. And so I think it's going to be a real value. And hey, COG is typically, the county would have to hire a consultant like TMP to do all the work, and that's a very expensive thing. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of effort.
Well, I'll just add, there isn't a consultant that will do all that work. Every consultant you would hire would partner with the Council of Governments. The Council of Governments has a very powerful transportation model, computer model. They used to run it on a supercomputer, they don't anymore. And going back to Clint's question or observation, like what if you have a new road? What they do with this model, it has every street, road, network in it, they're on how they're connected. And they can go in there and they can add a new link, they can add a new road. And that model will then tell everybody how much traffic it'll carry. And it's all based on where your retail's located, where do people go to jobs, where are the schools located, where do people live. All of that is programmed into the model. So what happens when this model gets to be 25 years old, you haven't updated it, it's using old information.
It's
right?
using old traffic projections, it's using old land use.
Yes, now, one thing they do know populations increase, but they don't know exactly where they are. This model update will help with that.
Yeah.
Does COG do that?
COG's doing that. We don't get the keys to the computer, they do all
But
that.
they would be the one that updates that
Correct.
25-year plan.
Correct, but they need somebody who, first of all, they're limited in resources. They've got a lot of people who, they have a lot of government clients that they serve. And typically what happens is they go with the option 2, and a consultant like us, we would come in and we would be the liaison. So we would take the existing thoroughfare plan, we would examine it, we would help COG identify where there's missing links, like there's new roads. They have to have those new roads to put it into the computer model. And then we would also back check the modeling runs that they do to make sure that they're accurate, that the network is coded correctly. We would also be that liaison to help with the public involvement. I mean, COG could do it on their own. I think with Hood County's consultant at the lead, there'd be more attention to detail and serving Hood County needs.
We'll be able to provide a more polished presentation to the public and probably communicate better what and why than COG could, just because of what Joe mentioned in terms of resources and just, TMP has more people and probably better technology and resources at our disposal to do that sort of thing. What COG won't do is they won't provide the recommendations, they'll provide the analysis. Their recommendations ultimately will be decided by some of the folks in this room. And you know, based on the analysis COG gives us, we'll be able to figure out, hey, this is the priority for Hood County. These are the ones that we want to recommend for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years, for the next 20 years.
So y'all would be the ones that prioritize the job?
In collaboration with the county, yes, sir.
Yeah, it's definitely local stakeholders that are gonna prioritize it.
How do you get present traffic counts of all these roads?
There's a number of different sources. TxDOT has some historical traffic data from their on-system networks. Some of it is just you go and count. You go and count traffic. You
Electronically, or have a person stand out there?
There's both options. Yeah. Yes, Clint.
I just wanna add that Johnson County is currently, and I believe it's half associates is performing theirs currently, so the importance of doing ours simultaneously, like if we decided to put a road and stop at Johnson County, you wanna make sure that theirs meet up with ours and get us on out to the tollway or wherever we wanna go.
Yeah.
And they're paying $3.99, but I believe half is doing the whole thing.
So that was $399,000. Yep. So it's an expensive.
North Texas, North Central Texas.
Johnson County's a big county though, but they're paying $399,000.
A lot of the work is in the modeling and the analysis that COG will provide, so it's gonna cut that cost way down for the county. I mean, I just can't emphasize enough how tremendous a value this is for the county.
It sounded like it, to me, when I was on the phone with Clint and Ryan and just listening to what COG provides, it's like that's their job, is they collect data, they model data, and then they provide it to the counties or the entity. But without knowing what the trade-off is, time versus money, I guess is what it comes down to, is how long because we've been on COG's category 1 since at least 2018, and nothing's happened yet, so.
I know you are.
So are we, I mean, how much time would it take them to do it, and how much would it cost to do the less time but more money, I guess, is the question.
And that's good. That's a hard question to answer exactly. I think we could give you, I gave you some estimated amounts based on the meetings that were required for the West County update. But yes, sir, you had.
So I guess the question is, it's been 25 years since we updated this. Why the delay? If we spend this money, are we gonna continue to upgrade this going forward, or are we gonna wait another 25 years and have to dump a bunch more money into this? I mean, it doesn't make sense to.
Because if we wanted a new thoroughfare plan, we need the data and the backup to say, to prove to TxDOT here, this is
Yeah.
backs it up.
And I guess 377's development, they had to get data from somewhere. Are they using our 25-year-old data to determine this?
They just did a thoroughfare plan for 377, so.
Oh,
They're doing their own modeling specific to that corridor.
can we tap into that along with this to help save some funds?
There will be some coordination that we would like to do with TxDOT as part of this process, yes, sir.
I think that'd be mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
I know y'all have the cooperating technical partners for floodplain and stuff like that, so y'all have a good working relationship with HAF already, like to coordinate with Johnson County is what they're doing there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point you made, Clint. I mean, I was speaking to contiguous planning and maps within Hood County, but then, yeah, that's a great point, looking at other counties that are adjacent to Hood County and making sure that your planning and your roadway networks are lining up. That's gonna be an important piece to this as well, so.
You bring up a point, I guess the floodplain is gonna be an issue brought into this as well, so we're looking at different areas that we flood now.
Yeah, and then that's gonna be, I think TxDOT will likely be a good resource for that, as well as, you know, the folks in this room, that live here. And, you're gonna be much more familiar with what, you know, flooding issues that y'all are experiencing, in the public. You know, we'll have some public involvement, so that'll be an opportunity for the public to weigh in and say, hey, you know, we experience, you know, this bridge is flooding every time I get a minor rain event. We need this to be fixed. And so I think there's gonna be a lot of resources that we can tap into in terms of answering some of those questions. It's gonna be a very collaborative process, and I think that's the piece that TMP can offer a lot of value herein is just helping facilitate those discussions and that collaboration, so we can get some of those questions answered.
I think that's my biggest concern is, if we do agree just to let COG run this, who oversees that? Who manages that? Is that, I mean, is that something that we
COG
can
does
throw
it.
on you and Donald over there, or?
COG does it, they do it 100%.
At their timeframe.
You would probably need to assign a champion for the effort, whether that's a commissioner or whether that's Clint. I'm not trying to volunteer you further, but there would need to be a representative from the county that's championing that effort and coordinating directly with COG as they set up these meetings and make these, there would probably need to be a person assigned to that effort to be the coordinator with COG as they develop it.
And then also someone to be the squeaky wheel, I guess, because if they've got 20 other municipalities that are asking for resources, then.
They don't
maybe
answer
that's-
to nobody, so you don't wanna be too squeaky.
What?
I said, they don't answer to anybody, so you don't wanna be too
Well,
squeaky.
just maybe, checking in with them and saying, can we set up another workshop, just to keep things moving, or we may end up still in 2026, still on the category 1 with nothing done.
So if we go the
That would be a
category,
concern that I would have too, is, if we go the Cat 1 route, that we really have no control, no able to get any data from, them other than being the squeaky wheel, if you will. And, again, that can keep getting kicked on further down the road. Because there's other municipalities, as he's already stated, they're vying for their time even more than we are.
And would COG coordinate with the adjoining counties that are doing theirs at the same time?
well, the question is, if
I
we,
would think they probably would, but we'd have to ask COG how they coordinate. I think that would be one of the questions we could put on our agenda for the first meeting with COG.
well, if we've been on their horizon since 18 and nothing's really been moving, how do we know Cat 2 is gonna move that faster?
Well, because we're gonna be sending meeting invites and getting on the horn with we already know some representatives from the team that's gonna be working on this with COG. We've already had a meeting with them. They're ready to go. I mean, they're ready to get started. They just need us to set up the meetings and tell them, get them some information. And up on the screen, you'll see, the second part of this meeting today is we can start talking about, some of the information that we need to start thinking about so that we can provide COG some of the information they need so they can then do their analysis and modeling. So I think the only thing that's holding us up right now is us. We just need to, figure out which category that we want to pursue and then get started.
So Ryan, you gave us a specific example of Wise County, and you said they had 7 meetings? So what was their, and that was a category 1. What was their time? I mean, for instance, when they get started, do they give themselves their own timeline, or?
So I have read through their MTP report that they produced as a result of that study. I have it today, I could pull it up. Their report showed 14 months. I'm not sure if it was actually completed in the 14-month time frame, but that's what they identified for duration in their report they produced.
That would be on their study from start to finish?
The study from start to finish. Mhm.
And that was them doing it on their own, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What kind of time frame do you have, or you forecast, if you're involved on a Cat 2, what kind of time frame we talking about? 6 months, 8 months, 24 months, what are we looking at?
Some of that we'll have to, some of that's gonna be dependent on how fast COG does their part to this. When we provide them the feedback, and the information that COG needs, how quickly are they gonna turn that around? But, I've kinda had in my mind the 6 to 8 months. I think absolutely we could get it done quicker than 14 months, with us driving the bus on this.
Brian, so you feel like we could do it faster if
Yes, sir.
and just operating with them?
Yes, sir, and mainly that's not due to a lack of motivation from COG's side. I think it's just a resource constraint. You know, they've got 5 folks on their team that are working on this, and they're serving a whole bunch of other entities than just Hood County. So there's just gonna be some constraint and resources there that I think we could help plug in and get this thing moving along faster for you.
If I can indulge for a second here, this, this is separate and apart to some degree of what we've already been talking about on Old Granbury Road, correct? I mean, we've got that's another issue we've already been working on, right?
Yeah.
So then the question is, if we're starting that project anyway, that we have to wrestle with, what difference does it make if it takes 14 months to get the master plan, if we can't even start on anything anyway? So we need to weigh that into the equation, I would say also. Do you know what the population of Wise County is now?
I don't, I could look it up and get it to you, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Well, they're going crazy up there too. So I don't even know, they may be growing a lot faster than we are actually.
And they had joined Denton County, which is over a million, so.
Right.
I guess the next question that I would have to ask is, the plan gets done, how fast is it before we start moving on any of that?
That's what I'm
I
saying.
mean, we can get the plan done in 14 months, but if it's another 3 years after that before we move money around to be able to do that, I guess it's a two-pronged approach. You gotta have the plan, but then you also have to parallel that of prioritizing which roads and funding and move that, so once the plan's done, you start moving.
That's correct. Yeah, funding is a big, big piece to us actually getting anything in the ground.
And how long does it take to get funding from the Fed side of it if we do COG?
That question might be better answered by Joe. I'm not.
Minimum 3 years,
Minimum 3 years.
minimum.
Once you ask, or,
Well, 377's been an ask for the last 10 years.
that's the text dot though, you know.
You got one, well, still funding, it comes through TechStop and COG. You got one project out of potentially, I think there's three. So, and that's the 144 bridge and the interchange there at the west side of the lake. You don't have any other commitments for funds. And in that one project that is funded, is partially funded, you don't have the rest of the money yet, and COG has applied for a raise grant for $25 million. Now, we expect that raise grant to be approved. And when that's done, then we'll have plenty of funding to go forward with the construction on it.
On the
That's been in the works for years and years.
And I guess the kind of funding you're speaking to would be state or federal funds. There is also the opportunity to do local, fund it locally through tax raise or bond elections. Those are also options that you could explore. So, or you could do, a combination of both local and state or federal match. We've seen that done quite a bit.
I started surveying the right of way for Loop 567 for the acquisitions in 1993, and it's still not finished. So that gives you a time frame of how fast they act.
Yay.
Yeah, there's geological time and there's TechStop time.
But don't we have to have something started in order for them to even consider our funds?
Right.
I mean, we have to have this master thoroughfare plan before they will even think about
That starts,
giving us any of the money.
yeah, this starts the wheel to start squeaking. You've gotta be the squeaky wheel. When the hog's going to the government trough to eat, you gotta make a pig of yourself, you gotta make a lot of noise, and you gotta fight for food.
And the master thoroughfare plan is like a business plan you take to a banker to get the money.
Yeah.
There you go.
And we have one, we just need to update it.
It just needs to be updated, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And I wanna make sure I recap something I wanna make sure I understand. If I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but going through COG and having them either do option 2 with partnering somewhat with you guys, or them just doing the whole deal, they have the databases and the programs to do the actual data work. And that is gonna be essential to be able to take that to the feds or the state to be able to get funding, correct?
Yes, sir. It's got to have a engineered and analyzed, it has to be modeled and have a basis for what we're proposing. We can't just throw something up against the wall and say, this is what we want. If you have something that's been approved and is backed by COG, then it's gonna hold a lot more weight when you go. And it's also, COG has their mobility plan. So right now, I think it's Mobility 2045. They're gonna update it next year to be Mobility 2050. They update it every 5 years to look 25 years out. So in collaboration with COG, the county's master thoroughfare plan will be in alignment with COG's mobility plan as well, which will also help get funding for those projects.
So we already have this proposal from you, the work authorization that was approved on January 9th, that was for $25,000. So is the work that you would, if we went with category 2, is the work that you would do to fulfill this statement of work the same work that you would be doing to work with COG, or is this separate?
There would be some, I think, overlap. So that work authorization included 2 workshops with the county to gather input. So that work authorization did not include COG's partnership. And it basically, we scoped that to be 2 workshops, and then we would take based on the feedback we got at the workshops, such as, what problem areas y'all are currently experiencing, any flooding, any intersections that had, high rate of accidents, those sorts of things. We would then update y'all's existing map, create a refreshed map, because the current one y'all have is, I think, just a scanned hard copy. But we would produce something that would be digital, something that could be uploaded to GIS, easily accessible. But it was, in effect, basically two meetings and then a refreshed existing map. What we'll need as part of the collaboration with COG, if that's the direction the county chooses to go, is there would be more meetings required. I mean, Wise County, we saw they did 7 meetings. There would be, when you go to public involvement, you'll need to produce, visual aids to show the public what you're proposing. There might be a summary document at the end of the study required that will document and summarize all the recommendations. Those type of things were not included in our work authorization. But like I said, I mean, there is some overlap between what we're talking about. So, and we do already have that $25,000, I think, approved through Commissioner's Court. So, I mean, one option is we just start billing our time towards that work authorization, and then when we start bumping up on our budget, we let you know, and y'all can either approve or not approve us to keep moving forward.
That 25,000 was just for specifically one area, not for the overall master thoroughfare plan, if I'm not correct.
It was for the overall master thoroughfare plan map, but it was not the real update that takes into account COG's analysis and modeling. So
I'm just trying to process all this information. So if you did this, what we approved, we're spending $25,000 and we're missing all the information that COG could provide, it would actually make this a better update.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But Joe, like you were saying, the amount of money that the county would be paying TNP on Plan 2 versus the reward from getting the money from COG is tremendous, isn't it?
You're looking at probably a 3 to 4x return on your investment with TMP.
That's what I'm saying.
It's more than that.
Well, that's what I was saying. I'm thinking,
You know, if
that's
you
a
end up-
bare minimum.
Yes, sir.
If the result of the study translates into improvements for FM 157, 156, I'm sorry, 167, Temple Hall, 377, FM 4, you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And what's at stake here, let me go back to this competition theory with everybody else. Hood County has clean air, okay? Hood County is in attainment for air quality as designated by the EPA. All these other counties around here, Johnson County is not, Tarrant County is not, Wise County is not. They've got more buckets of money to go to and get funds. Your Hood County is limited
Because we have good air?
because you have good air.
It's not fair.
It's not fair. I told them at COG, I'm one of your representatives at COG. And I told them, at the end of January, we had a meeting, and I told them, I said, look, here's the problem. We've got clean air in Hood County, we've got all these fatalities, all these accidents on 377. And I told every one of them in that room, Michael Morris included, if this congestion was anywhere in the Metroplex, it would be condemned and fixed immediately. Instead, it's being tolerated, and it's not acceptable.
Did any of y'all see the interaction at that joint meeting we had between the city, the school, Crescent, and the county about how TxDOT, Sarah, in particular, the personal relationship that TxDOT has with Ryan Jones and Joe Atwood? I've been in the business world too a little bit, and those personal relationships matter a lot. What these two guys do, they speak the same language. You don't speak it, I don't speak it, nobody on the commissioner's court speak it, and nobody out here in the audience speak it, with the exception of maybe Clint Head and Donald Denny. It takes that kind of rapport to get something moving. In my estimation, from being around here and having to make judgments, I think it only makes sense that you go with the plan two. The reward is just exponential. Plus, it's gonna be quicker. Plus, when they wanna talk to you or me, or they wanna talk to Ryan or Joe, it's not gonna be, we're not even gonna be a, what is it, win, show, or place? We're not even gonna be placing. We're not gonna even be getting out of the paddock. That's what I'm saying. It's that personal type of relationship that they have. We've been going to COG meetings. I go up there. I was at a meeting there Friday, as a matter of fact. It's that type of personal relationship that we're really paying for. And then when you compare it to Wise County, how many employees were doing the Plan 1 with COG? We got one person in our development. I wonder how many people Wise County had. 6, 8, 10? It's not comparing apples to apples either. I tell you this, it just makes, from my perspective, it just makes sense to let a professional. If I have something wrong with my back, I'm not gonna go to a carpenter to say about, hey, can you fix my back or whatever? I wanna go to the best neurosurgeon that they have. And it's the same thing with this. You wanna deal with the professional. You wanna get something best for the county. I wanna make sure that the county gets the best bang for their money. We all do. I think this is a very important, I think all of us have a real strict fiduciary relationship to the taxpayers of Hood County to spend their money wisely and get this moving. I mean, we're losing the deaths, just like Joe Atwood addressed. That's been made. We probably need to get an expose on from Channel 8 out here to show them how many people are dying out here on 377. Maybe that would have something to do, but then again, that may not be a good idea. I don't know. But you need to let the professionals do what the professionals do. That's what I'm saying. And I think it's the wisest choice for us to do, is to go with Plan 2 and let these guys really do what we've already voted on. Let them continue to do it. Let's go ahead and follow through with something.
Well, that's, actually, Judge, that's why I called this workshop, is because that's not what we voted on, and we need to change it if we wanna do that. And you might be surprised, but I do agree with you, which is why I wanted to.
Oh, wait a minute. You don't hear the walls cracking here?
Which is why I wanted to have this meeting/workshop, is because for us, I couldn't make that decision after talking with Ryan and Clint on the phone and Chris Reed from, Central Texas COG. They're like, well, do we go with Cat 2 or Cat 1? I said, I can't make that decision. We have to, because it's going to cost more money. It's gonna cost more than the $25,000 that we've already agreed to. So I can't make that decision, so that's why we're here. I wanted other people to hear what I had heard, and the court make the decision on which way we wanna go. I guess it's a possible option to just, I don't know, you have to modify this to bill against it and continue on, and then when you run out of money, you submit another statement of work, or
We
you
could do
need
it.
to modify this right up front.
We could do it that way. You know, we also have the, like I mentioned, the engineering services agreement with the county, that we have a contract with the county to charge our time on an hourly basis. So we could either just charge to that, or we could create another work authorization with language specific to the collaboration. We could do it a number of different ways. It sounds to me like the county wants that to be at least like a quantifiable amount of money though, so that you're not just committing to an unknown amount. So I think regardless of which direction we go, I think it ought to include a not to exceed without authorization from the county amount. Yes, sir.
That's what I was gonna ask, the gentleman kinda asked that early on, is we don't wanna get an endless pit here where we get started 25 at a time, and now we get to a point where now we're $1 million into trying to get this done. Is there an idea, an estimate, just what this project could cost possibly? So you at least have an end?
I would think, I mean, my gut tells me, if you want my gut number, my gut tells me 100,000 or less. And we're gonna do everything we can do to push as much of the effort onto COG as we possibly can. I mean, we're not gonna be trying to do things on behalf of COG that COG can do themselves and are willing to do. So we're, as part of this, we're gonna try to be doing it as little as we can to save the county money. Our priority is gonna be, let's get this done quickly as possible, and let's make sure there's good collaboration between the county, its constituents, the public, TxDOT, so that this MTP update is really gonna provide the plan that the county needs and the public needs for safety, and for y'all's, the projected growth that's gonna occur here, so.
Have we talked to the auditor? Do we have an extra 100,000? Or are we planning on buying another boats or anything with it?
We do have the capacity in Fund 55 for this project.
About how much do we have in there?
I think right now we have $1 million unallocated.
So what I'm saying is that if we could do like, they've already got 25, but they've used up part of 25. Let's say that if we could allocate 50,000, surely a 50,000 would not in any way threaten that $1 million, but with the 25 that's unspent, plus an additional 50, would that get us pretty far down with working with COG?
I believe so, and it may be that we could complete this thing under that amount. I just don't want to overpromise and underdeliver on this. I'm trying to give you a conservative ballpark on it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and you gotta get involved in a project, you know what I'm saying? I never quoted a flat fee in my life. You never know what you're gonna get involved in.
That's right.
So when you finish
So-
this project, use it to acquire grants?
It will be a tool in that process, yes. It's not gonna automatically get you the grants, but it will be a tool that you can use when you apply for them.
See, the question came up earlier about population in Wise County. July of 2022, the latest thing I could find, 74,895, so they're about 5,000 to 8,000 above where we are today.
But they're double landmass. They're double landmass. They're 900 something square miles, we're 439 square miles, so they're double our size. So when you look at that compared to population, we're way exceeding their population per square mile.
So that's, to me, I think the decision today is, I'm just gonna try and verbalize this, and any commissioner can correct me or change.
Judge, do you want your seat back?
Do what now?
Do you want your seat back? The decision today is, do we want to involve North Central Texas COG and modify this work order to include that? Is that how you would, I wanna go by the book for the auditor's purposes. I'm not sure, and Glenn, I'm not sure we can use this work order to include North Central Texas COG.
We could paper something, it's very easy to paper up another work authorization, so we could paper up another work authorization, for the collaboration with COG. If you don't wanna use the current work authorization and modify that amount, that would probably be the easiest thing to do. If that's not gonna work, then we could quickly paper up another work authorization for the COG collaboration.
I have a question, do y'all wanna start doing the honey pot thing where you 25,000, 50,000? Fund 55 is not on my spreadsheet, but I keep track of the budget. Y'all can't create another line item account, right, until next budget? So how do we how would I keep track of that? Sign the invoices, cause I don't sign for Fund 55, y'all do, so how do you do that? Matlock?
No.
I was not listening, forgive me.
They set aside $50,000 from Fund 55, and I'm managing that, it's not on my spreadsheet to keep track of that. Can you create a new line account just for this before next budget?
Wouldn't that be capital projects?
Yeah, I think that would be.
It's within that, and so I track everything that goes in and out of capital
So
projects.
they need to
in
send
that
invoices to you?
It needs to go through the PO process,
Right.
right? And so I would manage that, cause I manage that
Right. But
fund.
I guess
You
I could
can
just
be a
put-
part of that,
I guess I could
yes.
just put 25,000 on my spreadsheet and keep track of it that way.
Sure, yeah, and we can do that together, and I'll make sure you know everything that comes through.
So let me throw something out. I'm trying to get some hands on some numbers here. So Ryan, you're talking about having yourself and one other person involved as far as actually coordinating with COG, right? And you gave us a range of numbers, so I just added them together, it's $430 an hour for both of them. Is that fair?
It's fair.
So 100 hours would be $43,000, right? 200 hours would be 86. And they had 7 meetings in Wise County. Wise County's more population, but slightly, but it's also twice as big geographically. So they've still gotta have their thoroughfares issues either way. If we can get the contract where it's worded correctly, and the bang out of it is we get a report or a analysis done a little quicker than if they just do it themselves, but we need COG in there to have the clout of COG to get money, right?
The cloud, and they have, they have their model and analysis ability, that's gonna be a real value here.
And we really need that part.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Ryan,
Aren't there other people that are gonna have to get paid besides you two?
I don't anticipate any other people, we can pull up the draft map that we've already prepared. Will did a majority of the work, so I think it would likely be Will and I attending meetings, and then me and Will collaborating at the office to produce whatever deliverables, whether that's visual aids
So that
or
would include
reports.
secretaries and copies and all that stuff,
Yes, sir.
not like at the attorney.
No.
all the grinding and hashing and producing data, but TNP is gonna produce the deliverables. They're gonna provide the finished product, and is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am, and we'll try to, we'll be your right hand in terms of helping you figure out what questions you need to ask COG and making sure that all your stakeholders have had opportunity to provide input. I think that's where our facilitation of that process and collaboration with the county and COG is gonna be where we add value. And, ultimately, like I said, we'd like to push, as much as it makes sense back to COG so that y'all are paying us to do stuff that COG can.
Yeah, we'll put as much report writing off on them, summarizing of public involvement off on them, to save you guys money.
Well, I think that we've heard enough here. You about ready to make a motion?
Well,
All right, somebody,
okay.
now I'm ready to change places.
So, I forgot the amount, but- So we have discussion.
Well, I for one think that was a great discussion. It tells them what they can do. I'm glad we have the auditor here, Ms. Stephanie Matlock here. It says we got the money here to do it. Does anybody like to take a stab at making like a motion that we take $50,000 from Fund 55 to deliver to TNP to work on the contract with NCCOG and do all the things that you can do for the benefit of Hood County to get the money to do this master thoroughfare plan.
Yes, sir, and I would add that we would work as your agent to direct North Central Texas Council of Governments' work.
Do you
And
get that?
in the public involvement effort as well.
Okay. So then,
Does that help?
So
Yes.
is the 50 grand a retainer fee, or is it, he just lost me on that. Is it a retainer fee?
An additional $50,000 in addition to the unspent part of the $25,000. We haven't got a bill on that. So I don't know what portion of that is left. But the work that they have done so far, they've used up part of that, but with the additional 50 and talking to what Ryan just said, they may be able to give us a finished product for that. That'd be $75,000 for less than the $75,000. You would be my heroes if you did. There have been occasions that attorneys have returned retainers, not very often, but it has happened. It has happened. And I would hope that that's what we could do, but that's what I'm saying. Just to give us with the option that they're not doing it for the flat fee,
Yes, sir.
but if they don't use all the money, they return what's done. If they're getting to, like you said, they're running up against a budget, that they come back to the Commissioners Court and we have another special called meeting to see where we are.
Judge, wouldn't you want a proposal to have some kind of documentation on what things cost and
Scope of work.
as you go along, what you're paying for, rather than just throwing out money?
Well, you tell me what, we can, you can do that?
so that's what.
Okay.
I think the
And how often
All
would y'all
right,
let
Glenn,
them record?
Glenn, give us, you're the first.
So this would be more of an authorization for an additional 50,000 rather than a retainer, right?
Yeah.
You'd be authorizing the amount of money and to be used to pay as they bill us.
Bill against it.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is
So
correct.
an authorization.
Okay.
So, I think what I'm hearing is that we would like for TNP to provide an updated proposal, but we would still want to proceed today as if we're going with category 2. That way, when we go to the rest of the items, we're gonna keep that in mind. So I'll make the motion that we ask TNP to provide an updated proposal proceed with, working with North Central Texas COG on a Category 2 study with TNPS as facilitators for the county and proceed in that manner.
Yeah. I had a question, I'll get to that in a minute. Go ahead.
Do I hear a second? Well, first of all, any further discussion?
I think, yes, I think it, and I'm not criticizing, but I think the motion should be more that we're gonna authorize another 50,000, because that wasn't in there, contingent on them providing, is that okay?
So we
Yeah,
will.
I think that's more appropriately worded, yeah.
You, go ahead and, I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, so the motion should be, in my opinion, that we will authorize another $50,000, I'm sorry?
Fund 55.
For Fund 55, to provide for TMP to continue, to move forward with COG, contingent on a new proposal being brought to Commissioners Court to be reviewed and voted on in the next available court that is possible.
I'll second that one.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Okay, I do have a question. What kind of update timeline can the court expect? You know, once, you know, we get the new statement of work and we get the new, you know, final proposal, you know, is there gonna be a standard update like, you know, monthly or quarterly or what? What's the timeframe?
So there will be,
Stakeholder.
stakeholder steering, I think the COG calls it the Transportation Policy Committee, which will include the court. We will have, I think the Wise County study had 4 or 5 of those meetings over the course of 14 months. So I anticipate us finishing sooner than 14 months. So you can probably count on a meeting every month or 2 months.
Okay. Just, you're trying to get a.
And of course, we've got phone and email too, so you're welcome to reach out anytime you have a question.
So, do we need to reach out to those stakeholders and ask them to pick somebody now, or do y'all do that?
I would recommend the county being involved in determining who that committee is gonna be. You have the existing relationships already there, so I think we would appreciate the county's involvement in that process.
When's y'all's next intergovernmental?
It's not scheduled, but
I guess Kevin could ask like Penny.
Yeah, I think we need to get live in October.
Preston have a mail yet?
Yeah, Ron Becker's the interim, so, yeah.
Deckard over.
How big is this committee? Typically, how many people sit on
So
this?
it would be, based on what we've seen, it would be the court, the judge, and then at least one representative from the municipalities within the county.
What about emergency services?
It can include whoever we want to be included, I guess is the, I'm sorry?
They know where they need to get to better than we do.
I don't think that there's any fast and hard rules in terms of who needs to be on the committee, but it needs to be a good representation of the stakeholders, and so that's part of why I think it would be good for the county to be involved, and so y'all can have input on, like, who are your stakeholders, who do you want to be on this committee, and then we can get it formed and move forward.
What about the city?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
all the cities. Okay,
Start
so
with
you ready
me.
to start your?
Since this goes through the city, wouldn't we have them help pay for the cost of this?
This is their outlying
This
thoroughfares.
is outlined. They've already got a master thoroughfare plan, but they've updated, haven't they?
I'm sorry?
Their master, the city of Granbury's master thoroughfare plan, they've kept updated, haven't they?
You know, I'm not sure when the last update was made. I'm pretty confident it was updated sooner than the year 2000.
Yeah.
They just met with a consultant.
Yeah.
City of Granbury is currently updating theirs, they're having to pay for it in segments. I will mention that our master thoroughfare plan shows the highway going across the dam, that would never happen.
Okay.
Second half.
All right, now you want to go into item number 2, preliminary planning discussion with TNP to prepare for the initial joint workshop with TNP and NCT COG.
Yeah, so Brian's really gonna facilitate this, I just put it on the agenda.
Come on back up.
You guys are
So-
giving me a workout today.
Oh, come on back up here so everybody can hear.
I'll actually, I'll just try to talk loud, but I've got some things I'd like to show. on the
Okay,
screen.
all right, good.
So I think we probably, I wanna take advantage of the opportunity that we have with everybody in the room together, just to at least get it on people's radars, the kind of questions that we'll need to provide answers to for COG to do their portion. And some of them we've already discussed today. I don't know if you guys can see what's on the screen. Try to zoom in here, if I can. But I put a few questions together that I think would be good for us to be thinking of. The first question is, what are problems in the existing roadway network that we're aware of? And when I say we, I mean people in this room, and the public. You know, what problem areas do we wanna make sure we point out to COG so that they can go, program those into their model? What are some known updates to the MTP, the existing MTP that the county desires? Are there any new roadway links? Are there new thoroughfares? I reviewed COG's mobility plan versus the county's existing master thoroughfare plan. I already saw that COG has some thoroughfares that are in their program that aren't in the county's, so I think those would be obvious additions to the county MTP. But I think I would appreciate everybody putting some thought into, you know, where do we envision, or where do we already know that we want to put some new roadway elements, some new thoroughfares in?
You want these answered right now?
Not right now, these are just, I want to put these questions in front of y'all so y'all can start thinking of them, so that when we do schedule that workshop with COG, we're not gonna be, you know, flying by the seat of our pants, but we put some thought and consideration into some of these questions and are prepared to give COG some feedback.
How far in advance is that COG meeting that you're referring to?
We haven't scheduled it yet, I think we're looking at it sometime mid-March.
Yeah, just because calendars are so hard to organize, I just asked them, without knowing the decision today, which way this decision went, if they could be here, I think it was the 12th, 13th, and 14th of March, and they are available any of those days, but I didn't ask anyone else because I didn't know what today was gonna bring, so we can discuss that at the next step.
I do think when we do schedule that meeting with COG, we should really push for them to be here in person. Anytime you get, you know, we obviously will be here in person, but if we have COG virtually, a lot of the conversation can sometimes be lost between those that are virtual and those that are in person. So I think it would be, at least for the first meeting, it would be real beneficial for COG, for us to find a date that COG can be here in person.
You already know that Old Granbury Road's an issue. I mean, that's already, you know, that's a given. You know, I've got a concern, it's in the city, but it's gonna impact the county, and that is Saratoga. When it, you know, they're working on putting a 4-lane all the way on Saratoga from 377 all the way to Highway 4. I mean, that's gonna be that will become a major thoroughfare, even though Saratoga's in the city, but that will, you know, impact, ingress and egress out of precinct 3, right there. Cause it's coming between Acton Annex and the Acton Triangle, is where that's gonna impact.
Fall Creek's a huge problem, so is South Hood County on 144, 24, 25 area.
Right.
Yeah.
Pecan
I mean,
Plantation have another exit out if we could get across there.
So
So are you gonna show some maps in there?
yes. So I think what, you know, I put these, and I can provide, you know, Nanette's got a copy of this.
Well, I sent it to.
So hopefully everybody has seen these questions, but I think
This one.
what would be important is for everyone, Jack, you know, you've already got a few Clint, you mentioned a few others. Prepare a list, and then when we go to this workshop, we'll put this up on the agenda, and we'll give each of y'all a chance to
If
say,
you
hey,
could
these
email me
are,
the draft of the map you got, all the commissioners could just pin on it.
so we do actually have a draft.
You think it'd be beneficial to prioritize a lot of these different road projects that the Commissioners Court and this group's going to identify before COG gets there, or are we looking for them to help prioritize?
They're gonna be able to tell us, because they're gonna run their model, so they'll be able to identify some priorities that we don't know of yet,
Got it.
based on traffic growth and population growth.
And I think the data from COG is gonna help us prioritize.
How current will the data be from COG?
Well, they'll take current traffic today, and they'll use, they'll have formulas that will project that traffic for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, using things like land use, known developments, things like that to project what they think the traffic growth is gonna be. So it'll be using, they'll establish a baseline of existing traffic using traffic counts and known data, which will be pretty accurate.
And then project it for the next.
And they'll project it. So this is the map that we've currently put together. What this represents is your current master thoroughfare plan, but just updated and refreshed in a digital copy. A few of the things that I think would be helpful for us to add on this map would be the precincts, showing the precinct delineations. We can add some more roadway labels to help everyone identify, a lot of these smaller local roads aren't labeled. I'd like to get some labels on there so that when we have these workshops, we can clearly identify what roads we're talking about. But I'll quickly go through the colors, what the colors mean. So on the current district overlay map, the functional class, what us engineers call roadway classifications, we call them as functional classes, but that basically designates if it's a major arterial, if it's a minor arterial, if it's a collector or local road. Those are identified on the existing NTP and the subdivision regulations with letters. And so you've got AA for major highway, principal arterial, A for arterial, B for minor arterial, C for major collector, D for minor collector. And so what we've done is we've assigned colors to those different functional classes and shown them on the map that way. We've also shown all of your municipalities within the county in a shaded color. I think what I'd like to add, like I said, is the precincts on here as well, and then some more information about the roadway network. But ultimately, we'll be taking this map and we'll be updating it as we progress through the study with COG. I did see that COG already has planned the extension of Loop 567 to the south to connect down here.
That
That
was one that was on our list.
They've also got the Crescent bypass shown up here to the northeast. And they've got some other improvements that are planned for 377 shown on their mobility map as well. So we'll definitely want to accommodate and include those into the update with the county. But what would be most helpful maybe is if we can distribute this map like Clint said, and then the commissioners and other stakeholders prior to our workshop with COG go and pinpoint locations on this map that we think should be a priority and locations of known problems so that we can have a discussion with COG. So I've sent that to you guys. Clint, did you get a copy of that?
I'm sure it will.
You can post it on, what's the best place to post it on our web? Newsflash? Under development?
They're changing the website right now, so it's hard to say, but I will say that after the draft is done, the court will have to adopt this for me to be able to use my development regs from it. So y'all have to adopt it as a part of the development regs. But, yeah, I can just send it out. If anybody knows who to contact at Stockton Ben, I'm sure Commissioner Eagle knows, he can get the calls from him.
Who's that?
Peninsula, Stockton Ben, city of Stockton Ben.
Yeah, but they're really happy about a golf course going in.
So the end result to this whole thing will be a new map. It'll look something like this. I mean, and if y'all have any preferences or things y'all wanna change, please let me know. This is a working map. This is just the first cut. There's a lot of additional info and things that we'll be adding to it.
And then we will get GIS format to stick in our 911.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think that the more street names would be helpful.
Well, and I would think that some of these connecting roads down here, because I know something huge on this list is another way across the lake to the south. So, I mean, is it come down to Somerville, is it some way out into Johnson? I mean,
That's why we want to coordinate with Johnson County to make sure they match up.
yeah, I mean, that absolutely makes sense, but I mean, what are we looking at on that? I know some of that even over here to the east, if we, chose a bridge across the lake itself, right there, coming off of Rollins Road, somewhere over there, what would that, over in Johnson County look like? So, I think it'd be helpful if we could.
So kind of showing the overlap between your adjacent counties on how that plays in the map. Okay, we can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, at least connecting to another artery out there, getting to 67
That's
or.
what I
Just a thought, we would get people in Hood County access to the toll.
Yeah, Chisholm Trail, so it's gonna add more down there, but
Yeah, the straight shot to
that's a,
Harris.
an
Yeah.
artery
Yeah.
that more people have been using.
Not worried about the train.
But in general, an updated version of this map that includes, all of y'all's input, all the public input, and COGS modeling is what the resulting product will be. I also wanted to show you,
Hey, Ryan, before we get off that,
yes, sir.
is there a way, this map, is there a way to put the COG map that they show the future of what they've developed so that it may answer some of our questions before we go there?
So their version is actually online.
Oh, is it?
You can see how much of area they're dealing with, which is, this is why, having them do the whole process would take a little bit longer, because this is the area that they're looking at and that they're responsible for. So what they've got here, I'm gonna see if I can get rid of this. So I believe, and we'd have to confirm this with DOG, I believe that the roadways identified on this map are what they've currently got modeled. And you can see it doesn't really drill as far down into the detail as what we might want. So we can ask them to include additional roadway networks. And that's another reason why, we've been talking about the study of Old Granbury Road, but they don't drill down into the detail that we would when we study OGR. But if I go to the legend here, they've got a similar legend in terms of, like I stated earlier, the functional class, where they've got different types of roadways identified with different colors. You can also go here and display what are called different layers. What's currently shown is their 2045 roadway network. So this includes the things like I was speaking to of this extension of Loop 567. It's got the Crescent bypass shown. It's got some interchange improvements shown along 377. One kind of cool thing that I noticed is you can display the 2023 roadway network, and toggle on and off their 2045 or any of these projected networks that they've already studied. And you can kind of see the differences. So if you notice, when I click on and off the 2045, you're seeing the Crescent bypass and this loop extension disappear and come back.
So is that what they're thinking, they'll be through with that in 2045?
Yeah, maybe.
I've been asked that, so I'm,
But this is the information that we got from COG when we had our meeting 4 or 5 weeks ago with them. And this is, I believe, what their network looks like in their model. And so as you can see, it's not as detailed as maybe what we want. And there may be some missing roadways that we want them to include in their model. So if it would be helpful, I can send this link to the court and to Clint. And y'all can be reviewing this as well to see what roadways we might want to add and ask them to add to the model. So.
Ryan, is there a big cost difference between building a bridge across a river versus a lake?
Absolutely.
Distance.
Yeah, the span.
Well, because a river would flood up though so high.
That's just how, we're going linear distance.
The way you cost out a bridge
The linear distance is similar.
the way you cost a bridge is typically square foot. And so if you're talking a lake, you're talking about a whole lot more square feet.
But our lake is really just a wide river.
Yeah, but.
And that's kind of my point.
But if
is
you're
that
talking
if you
about
look-
from here versus here, that's gonna be
Exactly.
a big difference.
Yeah, I guess it depends on where you're talking about.
Yeah, and the elevation on either side, I
Right.
guess, too. the elevation.
So really, there's no cost difference as far as river versus a lake, is other than just the size.
Are you saying by linear foot, it's the same, it's just how far you gotta go?
That's right, exactly.
When
But
we cost-
when you have a river, you've got motion water too, that's gonna have some impact, would be my assumption, that you don't have with the lake.
All Lake Granbury is considered a riverine.
And then-
But in a lake, you have a lot deeper water than you do in a river, normally speaking.
This being a dammed, or a man-made lake, it's not a lacustrine lake, it's a riverine, so it's got flow. You still have all that under scouring and everything else.
The piers would have to go down a lot deeper and.
There is
That
cost
is part of the
associated with
problem.
piers. We typically, when we're costing out a bridge, if we're just doing a kind of a budgetary estimate, we cost it per square foot of width times length. That's where the majority of the cost is going to be. It's just, what's the footprint of the bridge itself?
And so is there a different cost per square foot that you use for river versus lake?
No, sir, when
That's
we're doing
nice.
our planning, it's usually just a square footage for any type of bridge. That, what are we using now, Joe? $150 a square foot?
I knew you were gonna ask me, and I'm sitting here, I have price pointed so low.
It used to be,
I
it used to be
get you to do it.
75, it used to be $75 a square foot.
I think it's 150
But things
now.
have doubled in the last 2 or 3 years, as everybody knows, so.
And here's something else to think about. Lakefront property is expensive. You want your roadways to go through stuff, but you require that right of way, it's not gonna be as expensive.
Just it's the number of piers that you've got to put in, if you have a wide span versus a narrow span, that's gotta add some cost.
Yeah, and typically, we would need to get you could get, when you design it, you get all detailed, and you get geotechnical engineering information where they go and they do soil borings to figure out where the rock is, and they put those piers down to the rock, just so you don't have any movement on the bridge. So this is COG's map. We just looked at the draft that TMP's prepared of the county map. I also wanted to show y'all real briefly, I don't know what our time frame is here, but I wanted to pull up what COG did for Wise County. So this is a document that they produced for Wise County. might find interesting was the process that they went through. And this is where, I think Jack, it was you that was asking about timeline. So this is the process they went through, and then if you look, you'll see the process to the left, and then you'll see the duration to the right. So you can see the first step is to create the steering committee and set goals. Next step, you identify the data sources you're going to use, whether that's text dot or land use or crash data, FEMA for some flooding information. Then you set your priorities based on information that we get from our steering committee. COG will then go and input that into their model, and they'll provide us alternatives, which we will then, from those alternatives and that analysis, we'll produce recommendations for updates and revision. Once we finish that, we will present those recommendations to the public through a public involvement, public meeting. We'll solicit public feedback. We'll take that feedback, we might make some tweaks and revisions to our recommendations. And then you finally get down here to plan adoption, and that's where we take the updated map, the updated master thoroughfare plan, and it gets approved through court to be enacted. And you can see on the right the duration. So they've got 1 month for study and formation, 3 months for issues identification, 6 months for technical analysis, 3 months for public review, and 1 month for adoption. The piece that we're not going to have maybe as much control over is going to be this technical analysis piece, the 6 months, because that's going to be mainly driven by COG's efforts. And so, we'll certainly try to keep them moving as much as we can, but we're not going to be doing that work for them. So that's going to be the piece that we probably don't have as much control over. Anyway, I thought you might find that interesting. And all of this information that I'm pulling up on screen, I can provide everybody.
Well, that's good.
Another thing I thought was interesting is getting down here to the results, section 4, the recommendations. So they produced long-term transportation recommendations, and that was based on a 20-year plus timeline. And so they produced a map for long-term improvements that were needed. They also produced a map for near-term improvements that were needed, talking about 5 to 10 year time frame. And then they identified priority corridors. You can see they've got a list of nine corridors that, based on collaboration with the Wise County stakeholders, they identified, hey, these are going to be our priorities over the next 5 years. These are the ones that we need to start getting funding for. These are the ones that we need to start engaging a consultant to design the improvements for, so we can go to construction. They accounted for, these are locations of accidents, high accident incidents. Looks like these were locations of fatal or incapacitating vehicular incidents. So they've kind of produced a heat map, so to speak, of where their high accident rates are occurring at what intersections.
Do you know the time frame on that? Like from when to when?
No, I don't. Let's see if it says. I'm not seeing a time frame. They looked at persistent flood, locations of persistent flooding that needed to be addressed. And then ultimately, they produced a comprehensive long-term recommendation map that kind of took into into account all of those things, the near term, the long term, traffic safety, flooding, priorities. And they produced this, this map that was kind of a comprehensive map that included all those things. And so, that's gonna be where we wanna get. This is where we wanna get to. And that's gonna be the process that we go through to get there. And, at least that's the process that Wise County went through. Our process may be a little bit different, but I think in general, we could use that as a good guideline, a good go-by for our process.
Yeah, I would say there would be one more component you would add, and that's your nuclear power plant neighbor and potential evacuation.
What was that?
That's a, pardon me?
I couldn't hear you.
I was just saying, one thing that's not on this map is nuclear power plant evacuation route. That's an old issue with Hood County, I know, going back to like 2001, 2002. TxDOT did a study, federally funded study on power plant evacuation, and it just didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But I think with COG picking it up and doing it, we might have more traction.
Will that also help with grant money?
Yeah, hey, the plan, look, you've got nothing without money. So the plan, especially involving COG, where just about all your federal money comes from, puts them, it puts Hood County in their headlights. It puts them front and center and getting really knowledgeable with what your issues are.
Yeah, and the next section of this report just talks about the implementation. That's where you get into funding, programming, and what your options are there. So, anyway, I can send you guys all this information and kind of what I think are the important questions and considerations to be thinking about before our workshop. And
Can we, where would you suggest we have a new tab or a new link or something for the public to be able to go look through all of these maps and?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely, what we can do is we can just, we can create section for it, and then it'll have its own section in the document center, so people will be able to go through it, kind of peruse through it like they would, kind of like how we have, Katie, like how your minutes are set up, it would kind of be like that.
that's about all I had to that. Judge, is there anything else that?
The next steps, did you know?
So next steps, I think, would be for TMP to provide this information to the court and to Clint, and have this information distributed. I think actions for the county would be, like we've talked about, for y'all to start thinking through and digesting this information, coming up with your list of things you'd like to see the NTP address, and then be prepared to speak to it at our workshop.
And you're gonna provide an updated estimate, right?
We will provide it, thank you, yes, we'll provide an updated proposal.
Are we at this point start looking for stakeholders for this committee? Do we need to start forming that now?
That would be another good, actually, that's a great point, because it would be nice for this first workshop to have that committee established and to have that committee represented at the workshop. So that's a really great point, Kevin, thank you. So that would be an action item, I guess, for the county, is to engage your municipalities and figure out who, or other stakeholders, like the IC, and see who we want to represent on this committee. That's a good point there.
Yeah, our next regular commissioners court after tomorrow will be March 12th, and then you talked about March 12th, 13th, and 14th.
That's when,
The COG would be,
Chris Reed said they could be available any of those 3 days, so.
so we need to coordinate with, and Ryan's recommended that we get their bodies in here, right? So we need to coordinate on that.
We have like a double court that day, have them in there?
Spring.
been busy taking notes over here today too, so we'll follow up this meeting with meeting minutes with, what we understand the action items to be as well, for everybody involved. But yeah, I think, it sounds like establishing the steering committee, TNP providing an updated proposal for the collaboration COG, the court and other stakeholders thinking through these questions and thinking through what our feedback to COG should be, and then getting that workshop scheduled are the action items as I see it.
Typically, how many folks would be on with COG to come to something like this?
I think
A
the
couple
team
of
that they
people?
had was like 4 or 5 people.
Yeah, I think there's been at least 3 included in every email that he sends me.
So I'd say no more than 5.
Chris Reed is the person I've been communicating with at Central Texas College.
And an updated proposal.
I'm sorry?
Updated proposal.
Yes, ma'am.
So we don't have a whole bunch of different drafts, do you want me to mark one up and email it to each one of y'all, and y'all mark up for it?
I don't know. So you mean we provide you all our changes and,
We'll just pass it around, everybody mark what they want to mark.
Do y'all have Bluebeam by any chance?
must be some software he wants you to buy.
There is a tool that we use, it's called Bluebeam, it's a PDF review where you, Bluebeam. And it's really cool because you can create what they call a studio session. And everybody logs into this thing and can all mark up the same document at the same time, which would be a really cool application for this. I don't know if y'all have that capability.
Owen, can Fox it do that?
That would be a.
We don't have that.
Probably a walking form.
That would be a walk
Get a
and
trial version.
form. So you
Here in
can
this
do it.
county, it's probably not a good idea. Somebody would probably write something obscene on it.
The closest that we've got now
And
would
get the
be,
county sued, so.
would be probably just like using our Word 365, because that way you can have multiple people on there, you can see kind of where people are. I don't know exactly, it's probably not quite as well as what you're talking about using, but
No, that's a similar concept, though. Yeah, that's good.
Probably
Yes,
just as easy as everybody pass it around.
That would be the other option too. That just might take a little more time.
Or I could print out the full print of it on the plotter and inner office, just pin it on there.
Is it something we can do at the workshop, is just
Yeah, I
take
would
it
think.
out here to
Just kind of thinking maybe like one person with a map in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
Hey, what about this?
yeah.
I was plot it out, and then we can inner office it, mark on there with initial it, that way y'all know whose is whose.
But then again, you're still having, these are the commissioners and they can't share information, so
Oh, yeah.
probably set up a workshop.
Yeah, I was kind of, I don't know.
Either
Is
way,
there a room where we could, maybe we can have it at the annex, and when voting's over, I don't know, we just use that, have it in the square, and have a table in the middle, and, I don't know. When's voting over? If there's a runoff,
Oh. And that's in May.
okay, so the
Yes, more.
13th, 14th, 15th, she should be cleared out. Maybe, I'll check. Okay. I just think collaboration in one big room, because people have different ideas and spur another idea, and
Would you like for TNP to be present at that meeting, or is that something that?
I think is that not what we're doing on when,
he's talking about us collaborating on the draft.
If
For the
you-
problem.
I was speaking to y'all's collaboration on.
before that?
I wouldn't wanna burn a workshop on that.
No.
You would not?
No, 'cause we're
No,
paying for
not
so
with
many
all
workshops,
them.
and this is just be something for them to decide.
That could be something that y'all just do internally without, I was just wondering if that would be something that you would want to stay for. But I think y'all could take care of it on your own.
To be ready for the workshop on it.
I would still recommend that everybody come with their list and be ready to kind of speak to their list. Even if it's presented as this is the court's, information, I think I would still think it would be beneficial for everybody to kind of have their own list too, and be ready to kind of speak to that.
And then whatever ideas from people that live in certain areas that want to have their ideas too.
only dictate, like, if citizens come in and say, we want a road here, if the model don't support it, we won't support it.
Exactly.
Okay, anything else? We're about ready to wrap this up. Anybody have anything else? Okay, with that at 2:48, this meeting is adjourned. Thank y'all very much for attending.